Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Catch Restart Smart PE training. I am so excited to share my Thursday evening with you. I hope that you're doing well. So just a little bit about me and about the Catch program. My name is Shana Green, and I live in the Austin area. I have been a physical educator for the past several years. I started at the elementary level. I spent a lot of time at the middle school level, and then I finished up at the high school level where I was teaching PE and I was coaching as well. I spent a little bit of time at the district level where I was able to advocate and support physical education and health in our district. And so just a great experience there. The whole time I was teaching, I was implementing the Catch program, and being able to see the difference that this program can make for not only the students, but also the staff was pretty much life-changing and amazing. And so I was super excited to come on board the Catch program last July, and now I am the Curriculum Implementation Manager. And like I said, I'm very excited to be here. I've enjoyed all of the speakers at the Sacramento Wellness Summit, and I've enjoyed engaging with everybody on the app. So thank you again for having me. A little bit about the Catch program. So I work for Catch Global Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to getting the message of health and wellness out to as many schools as possible. Right now, we are working with many schools all over the United States, and we hope to go to Kenya next year and bring that passion there. Today, we're going to talk about PE and how to implement PE during this, crazy time. Of course, every school district is different. Every campus, community is just in a different boat. But I hope that we can cover enough topics to really get you thinking and getting excited about all the possibilities at this time. So with that being said, let's dive in. So whether you're a veteran teacher or a new teacher, one thing is for sure, this year will be like no other. We're definitely having to reinvent and redesign what physical education looks like these days. And so hopefully, again, like I said, we can bring you some great ideas that you can really start reflecting on and figuring out how to keep your program going during this time. One thing also that I want to say before we really get started is just how important our social emotional needs are, not only for the students, but also for us. All of us have been going through quite a lot. And so it's important that we just kind of take a moment to really understand the needs that we have and make sure to take care of ourselves so that we're not pouring from an empty cup when we go back to the classroom or back to the virtual classroom to teach with our students. One thing that I love about Catch is that Catch truly understands that the educator is the one that's on the front lines working with the students each and every day. And so we truly value who you are and the role that you play in children's health. And so thank you so much for what you're doing and what you're doing for your kids. And don't stop. Keep working. Keep fighting that fight. So what is the Catch program? Well, Catch is an acronym that stands for Coordinated Approach to Child Health. It's a resource for creating and maintaining a healthy school environment, because if you change the environment, behavior will follow. So let me give you an example about environment. Let's say that you're going out to eat with a group of friends. This group of friends, they do it right. They get a big appetizer, a heavy meal, dessert, maybe a couple of drinks with that meal. When you go to eat with them, what are you going to choose to eat? Think about it. Be honest. You're probably going to indulge just a little bit. Now imagine that you're going out to eat with your friend who is training for a marathon. They're coming right off the jogging trail, and you're meeting up for dinner. They're going to choose maybe water and grilled chicken and salad. What are you going to choose to eat? You're probably going to cut back a little bit and eat something very similar to your friend. And that is an example of the environment. So the Catch goal is to make the healthy choice the easy choice. So anytime we're working with a school, we really want to help them create a healthy environment. We do this by using a specific language. So the goal of Catch is to be a school where everyone is working together, and that's that coordination piece. So everyone from the gym teacher to the administrators to the librarian to the cafeteria staff, everyone is working together to create this healthy environment. We're also all speaking a common language. So in Catch, we have something called MVP. You might have heard of MVP before, standing for Most Valuable Player, but with CATCH, it stands for Move and Stay Active, Value Healthy Eating, and Practice Healthy Habits Every Day. And so that is some of the language that we're constantly using in our CATCH campuses. We also talk about food like a stoplight, go, slow, and whoa foods. So these are the common languages that we want everyone on the campus sharing with their students. And when everyone is working together, sharing that language, displaying health signage around the school, then it is very apparent to others that health and wellness are truly valued on that campus. So wouldn't it be great after all of this COVID stuff, after all of this social distancing, if we showed up at school and we saw healthy kids who are choosing to be physically active, choosing to eat healthy, activity breaks in the classroom, everyone working together to really create a healthy environment that will not only be fun and engaging for your students, but will also help them to build a healthy immune system and stay healthy as young children, as well as when they become adults. So CATCH aligns with the whole child approach or whole child philosophies. The whole child approach is an effort to focus on the long-term development and success of all children. So you can see that it takes the community, it takes the school, everyone on the campus to help out. Key pieces of this are the health teacher and the physical education or physical activity teacher. Those are key. Whenever all of these people are working together to really teach to the whole child, then we find children who are healthy, they're safe, they're engaged, they're supported, and they're challenged. And that is the goal that we have for our students in CATCH schools. So whenever I mention that whole child approach, you notice healthy and safe were the first two that I said. And that's because those are so important. We can't teach academics until we meet our students' basic needs. And so that's why I just want to go over the importance of physical education. Physical education, physical activity is key in building that immune system. It's key in teaching nutrition and getting kids up and engaged. It also teaches students how to build their healthy immune system, how to build relationships, all those key things. Your physical educator and physical education class also naturally teaches those whole child approaches. So this is also kind of a key term right now that we're hearing, like a buzzword. Everyone's talking about, teaching to the whole child. Well, your physical education teacher, your health teacher, those are great resources for the campus to really dive in and help navigate that whole child approach. Also, meeting the social and emotional needs of all kids. Again, another kind of buzzword. We're all very aware that our social emotional needs need to be met at this time. Your PE teacher has been teaching SEL for years and years and years. It's just naturally kind of taught in the gym. Good sportsmanship. Well, good sportsmanship meets so many of those CASEL standards that are in place for social emotional learning. So that personal responsibility, social awareness, setting goals, all of those things happen very naturally in a physical education setting. And then also just learning to teach and reinforce self-care practices. Your PE teacher can do that with the students, but also with the adults, because all of us now could use a little bit more health and activity in our lives. So one thing that we need to keep in mind as we're starting this school year, and I know a lot of you have already started, but we really see this year as being a year of just a lot of restarts and a lot of firsts. There's going to be a lot of news. And so one thing to just keep in mind the whole time is that emphasis on social and emotional learning. Again, meeting all of those standards for SEL competencies are going to be very important, and then pointing them out too with the students. Also being trauma-informed and using trauma-informed teaching instructions. Our students, our teachers, all of us, we've all felt some sort of trauma during this time. And so it's really going to be important that we have procedures in place, lots of tools to be able to meet the social and emotional needs of our students and to help guide them through school this year. We'll go over a couple of those things and actually get to visit them in action. We also want to emphasize physical activity and physical fitness. Think about it. All of us are in front of a screen a lot more than we used to be. And so we're all kind of living a more sedentary lifestyle. So it's going to be important that we're getting kids up and moving, even if that means it's happening over a screen. We also want to focus on skill development for individual games and lifetime fitness. So it might be a little while before we're playing those team sports and PE again, but there's so many other things that we can think about. Those basic movement concepts, throwing to a target, lead up games, personal skill, even things like balance, those things that are going to be good for our students for a lifetime are all important as they return to school, whether that's in person or virtually. So Catch kind of functions around this premise. If we want children to make the decision to be physically active, we must provide enjoyable physical activity experiences that teach and encourage them how to be active for a lifetime. Would you agree with that? I hope so. There's a couple of things I want to point out here. One, I want to point out that we're asking our children to make a decision. We want them to be empowered by physical activity. We want them to have ownership. So really providing that enjoyment is going to be key, because if students enjoy physical activity at a young age, that will carry into adulthood. We also want to give them lots of variety so that they find something that they can love now and forever. So there are a couple of key objectives for Catch PE, and these are just standard. They've been with Catch for a long time. And I must say too, Catch has been around for a long time. So about 30 years of evidence-based physical education instruction, as well as nutrition, as well as our coordinated, our whole coordination kit and coordinated approach. And all of those, again, are evidence-based for elementary school as well as middle school. And so these objectives, we know that when we're really seeking to hit these objectives, that we can really make a difference in a school and in a physical education class. So some of those key objectives. Number one, students enjoy physical activity. And the Catch motto is, if it ain't fun, it don't get done. So we want to make sure that this curriculum is fun, not only for the students, but also for the teachers when they're teaching and implementing it. We also want to make sure that students are involved in MVPA for more than 50% of the class time. So that just means if you have your students for an hour during their physical activity session, you want them to be really moving for at least 50% of that time, at least 30 minutes. So no more, standing around and waiting or sitting on the Zoom call and waiting. We want them up and moving. And I know that that's going to be more difficult in this virtual setting, but it's still something to strive for. The next one is we want to make sure that students are provided with many opportunities to participate and practice skills. And that's all students. So just meeting the students where they are, making sure that they have what they need. So if it's certain equipment that they need, making sure they have what they need to be able to practice the skill. Also, students are encouraged to participate in physical activity outside of the PE class. So it's important that we take that message home. So when we're playing a game with them and they're enjoying it, making sure to point out, hey, grab your brothers and sisters and play this game. Or do you have a park that's close by your house? Why don't you try taking a Frisbee out there and playing, Frisbee golf or playing ultimate Frisbee or some of the games that you've played with in your class. But it's really important that we're empowering them to play and be active on their own. And that being said, it is time for an activity break. So I'm going to act like we are all together on this call at the exact same time, and I'm just going to trust that you are being physically active with me during this. So everybody get ready. When I say go, you're going to stand up. You're going to check your area, make sure you have plenty of safe space to move, and get ready for our activity break. When you stand up, you're going to need some kind of cone. So if you don't have a cone at home, then you can grab an aluminum foil ball, a small stuffed animal. It could be a marker, a water bottle, but grab one thing that's going to be your cone. Okay? Ready? Go. You're standing up, finding some space. Okay, so hopefully you have your cone and you're standing up and you're all right. So hopefully you grabbed your cone and you're ready for some physical activity. So this is a very basic follow the instruction activity. When I say head, students are going to put their hands on their head. If I say shoulders, go to your shoulders, knees, go to knees, and cone, you're going to grab your cone or ball as fast as you can. All right, everybody ready? Head, shoulders, head, knees, shoulders, head, cone. Good job. And right now I would point out all my students and say them by name and let everybody know that they are seen and that they're doing great. Let's do it again. We're going to speed it up this time. Ready? Knees, shoulders, head, shoulders, knees, shoulders, head, cone. Yeah. All right, great job there. All right, now to keep our students engaged, we need to kind of add a twist and change things up a little bit. So now we're going to move our body in a different way. So when I say go, you're going to start this fast feet movement. Move your feet as fast as you can. If I say left, jump left, then back to the front. If I say right, jump right, back to the front. Up, you're going to go up. Down, you're going to go down. Cone, you're going to grab your cone. All right, ready? Here we go. Fast feet. Left, left. Up, down, right, come. Great job. One more time. Fast feet. Ready, go. Right, up, down, left, right, come. All right, great job, guys. Hopefully you can see that in just a short amount of time, you can get your heart rate up, breathing a little heavy, and having some fun while you're doing it. All right, let's jump back over to our PowerPoint. Okay, guys, so we just finished our activity break called cone reaction. And this is a physical activity that we have in our curriculum that can be done in person or virtually. So in person, usually every student has a partner. And so they're standing in front of their partner, they follow the drill, and then they have one cone between them. Whoever grabs that cone, that it would be the winner. Now, we can still play that in person. We just need to make sure that we're following physical distancing protocols. So you would have 2 cones now, 6 feet apart, with your students listening to your drills and grabbing only their cones so that we make sure we're not sharing equipment. And then as you can see, this can also be done virtually where you're just calling out the cues and students are reacting as you're speaking. Also, we're modifying equipment because we know that not all students have the same equipment at home. All right, diving back in. So to meet the objectives that I just talked to you about, the enjoyment, 50% of activities, sending that message home, making sure everyone can participate, we use what we call the catch basics. And when we follow the basics, we can almost assuredly make sure that we hit all of those objectives. So the B in basics stands for boundaries and routines. So those of you who've been teaching for a while, you know how important your boundaries and routines are. And now more than ever, they're going to be important because now we have to worry about physical distancing, sharing equipment, crossing paths, all of those things. But we want to make sure that we have these boundaries and routines in place from the beginning of the year, and it's something that we build on and work on moving forward. If you are having online lessons, and so you can still create those boundaries and routines even in a virtual situation, whether you're asynchronous or synchronous. A couple of examples of that is just having some structure in your class period. So every time your students see you, no matter where that is, you're going to have that warm up, that lesson, that cool down, and they know and they can expect that every time they see you. It might also be that you're writing out an agreement with your class. So creating those boundaries, creating those routines. Maybe the first time you meet, you really go over, a virtual contract and how are we going to behave while we're on our Zoom calls? How do you want me to treat you? How are you going to treat one another? All of those are key things that you can create and build upon. The next one is activity from the get-go. So we want to make sure that our students are active the second they get into that physical activity session. If we're in person, we can use a tool called Hit the Track, where students come into the gym, or if you're on a blacktop, they go to the blacktop and they start immediately walking the perimeter of that space while you're preparing for class. And this just eliminates any kind of waiting time. So when we're waiting for other homerooms to come to class, or we're waiting for students to get out of the locker room, this way everyone is still up and active and we're getting that 50% of MVPA that we're looking for. In a virtual setting, it just looks like an instant activity that doesn't require any equipment that you can do right away when you get on that call. It could even be that you use the same song every time you meet and everyone does the same routine all together with that song. But just really make sure that you're getting those students moving immediately right when they see you. The next thing is stop and start signals. Those are key. You just want to make sure that you have those signals in place. I like to use a countdown. So I start at 3 and my voice is really loud. I'm projecting it over all the chaos in the gym. 3, everybody get your body still in 2. eyes on me and you're quiet in 1. And as I'm counting down, I am lowering my voice. So instead of trying to be louder than the chaos in the room, I am bringing down all of that energy. And that can happen online as well. So doing a good countdown, that way if you have music playing or if everybody's doing different things, they can really see you and get quiet and ready for instruction. The next one is involvement by all. So we just want to make sure that we are being equitable, that everyone feels successful in our class and just in our physical activity session. So making sure that there is a high success rate in all the activities that we're choosing to do. And then also making sure that we're highlighting all students. So, you know, when I mentioned during cone reaction that I would be calling everyone's name, and really make sure that your students know that you see them. The next one is concise instructional cues. So as teachers, as coaches, we get really passionate about the things that we're talking about, and sometimes we can over talk those things. Also, if we take one question, we're going to have to answer all the questions. So learning to be very concise with your words and instructions is key. So if you can give instructions very quickly and allow the students to get up and get moving, that's perfect. Now, if the students don't understand, so maybe you got them up and they're moving, but they didn't understand directions quickly, because you have such good stop and start signals, you can get them quiet really quickly, fix whatever it is that you're seeing, and then get everybody up and moving again. Again, this is going to help keeping that MVPA up to 50% or more. And then the last one is supervision and safety. So that is always key. When we have physical activity sessions that are live, we're on the ball, moving around, making sure that everyone's safe, everyone's being kind to one another. Now in a virtual setting, we also have to be safety. So having disclaimers in place can be very helpful. A disclaimer is just saying, make sure that you have plenty of space around you, make sure your parents know that you're going to be physically active. So having that either in writing, if you're doing asynchronous learning, or just saying it during your synchronous time can be very helpful, and just make sure that you're covering all your bases. All right, and that brings us to the language of catch. So catch has a specific language that we use in the gym that just helps with managing our students. The very first one is the when before the what, and I absolutely love this. It changed everything about how I teach. So the when before the what is the verbiage when I say go, and then you give the instructions. See, before I was ever given this like sentence, I used to just give the instructions. Hey guys, get quiet. Okay, we're gonna find a partner and then we're gonna play this game. Well, immediately when you say partner, students are looking to see who is gonna be their partner, scared to death that they're gonna be all alone. And so that's why I like this when I say go, because as soon as they start moving, you can say, no, I didn't say go. You got to wait. And so your students really learn to listen for your instruction and listen for that key word of, okay, go. And then they can move and start the activity. It's not on here, but there's also something that we do called lost and found. And lost and found is where when students are looking for a partner, you can say, if you can't find a partner, meet me in the lost and found. And it gives students a place to go so that they're not alone if they can't find a partner. If you don't like that language, you could always say, if you can't find a partner, come find me. But making sure that your students have a place to go if they can't find a partner is key. The next one is physical distancing. So we've heard a lot about social distancing and remaining apart in social settings, but now we're going to need to think about physically distancing when we're in school. And so when we're talking to young students, we can talk about their bubble and making sure no one touches their bubble. And then when we're talking to older students, we can talk about their personal space and just teaching students that their personal space is a little bit wider than it used to be. And then we need to give everybody as much space as possible to be safe. The next one is social emotional learning and mindfulness. So it's going to be important to use SEL prompts within your PE class. So if you're working on setting goals and you're checking on your students to see if they've met those goals, that's something that's really important, and you want to highlight that. Hey, we're working on your goal setting, and that's going to help you in the future. And just pointing out how they did such a great job and what is a goal. All of those things are key, but it's going to be really important to really tap into those social emotional needs that your students have and just be aware of them. The next one is mindfulness, and mindfulness is a new passion of mine. I have to admit, when I was in the gym, I did not always So when I was in the gym, I wasn't always practicing mindfulness because I just felt like I was so busy. There was always so much going on. But really, mindfulness is a great thing for you to have. It's a tool that you can have for your students, and it's a great thing for your students. So I'm going to stop my screen share so that we can do a mindfulness breathing technique real quick. And the idea behind mindfulness is being present, and it is slowing down that inner chatter. So adults, we're constantly worried about our to-do list. Students are constantly thinking about their to-do list, what just happened in the classroom before they got there, are people mad at me? They also have that internal voice that's always going. So mindfulness techniques help them to quiet that voice and just be more present. So this one is called Take 5 Breathing, and this is one of my favorites, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take 5 sips of breath through our nose. And I'm saying a sip of breath because it's gonna be real quick. Just like that. So not the slow breath that you might be used to, but a real quick, energizing breath. As we're doing that, we are going to count to 5. Once we get to 5, we're going to exhale very slowly and close our fist. Okay? All right, here we go. Ready? Breathing in. Exhale slow. Do that again. Exhale slow. Last one, ready? Exhale slow. So what this does for me as an adult is it settles me. I wasn't anxious, but I was excited, just talking and getting all anxious about that and getting all excited. And so this just settles me and brings me down. I want you to think about your students and how often they get overwhelmed by their feelings. Even if they're, working on a skill and they can't master it and they just kind of shut down and get upset. Maybe they feel like they were sharing with someone and they've been treated unfairly. But there's so many times in our classes where students just feel overwhelmed. If we will teach them these breathing exercises early in the year, and it's just part of our class routine, then when they need them, when they're all worked up, then you could very quickly walk them through an exercise like this and calm them down and then direct them to a more, positive focus or just move them somewhere else. And this is an example of trauma-informed teaching. So anytime that you can meet the student right where they are, de-escalate them, and then move them and refocus them to something else is going to be key, and it's going to be helpful. So mindfulness is for everyone. Remember that, and just remember to make it part of your instruction all the time. Okay, so diving back in, we just went over SEL and mindfulness and how important that is. Now we're going to talk about our re-entry task and our re-entry zone. So in Catch, we want to eliminate elimination games. Elimination games are those games where you're playing a game and once you're tagged, you're out and you go and you sit and you continue to watch the game being played. We want to eliminate those because the students that are sitting out are most likely the students that really need the physical activity. Also, they are going to have a hard time developing a love for physical activity if they're just always sitting and watching. So we want to make sure to keep them inside the game and keep them involved. And so we've created something called the re-entry task and the re-entry zone. A re-entry task is where the student does something to get them back into the game. It could be something like 2 jumping jacks. It could be a little dance or doing a 30-second dance. I used to have cup stacking, and so they go and they cup stack and then they get to come back in. But it's a re-entry task that they go and do. A re-entry zone is a safe place for them to go and do that task. So we wouldn't want them to be on the playing area and just stop where they are and start doing their re-entry task. Someone could get hurt. So we have re-entry zones. Well, now that we have to physically distant once we're together, we want to make sure that those re-entry zones are off to the side and that there's plenty of space between them. Also, I want to point out too that if we're playing games, through Zoom in this virtual setting, we can still have re-entry tasks. So if we're playing a game, we're all playing rock, paper, scissors against each other, then instead of having it where once they lose, they're out, they just do a couple of jumping jacks and then they come back into the game so that we're keeping everyone involved all the time. We also want to be really creative with our competition. We don't want to always have winners and losers because sometimes those students will start to internalize that. Man, I am always on the team that loses. And so we want to make sure that we're being really creative. Competition still excites some people and energizes them, but then we also need to be aware that some people don't enjoy that competition, and so it can actually cause them to kind of shut down. But when we're creative with it and we switch it up a little bit, we're more likely to meet the needs of all of our students. So creative competition would be the class working together to achieve a goal, or it's trying to beat your personal best, whatever your best score was, trying to beat it again. It could also be the class versus the teacher. So there's lots of ways that you can be creative with that competition. And the next one is nutrition information. So in PE, that might be the only time that students are really getting to talk about nutritional foods and what nutritional health. So make sure that you make that just a part of your routine on a daily, weekly basis. You're teaching about nutrition. Catch has a lot of games that we call our Go Slow Whoa games. And so that's one way that you can teach where you're using that physical activity, or you could teach by using PowerPoint. So in this kind of virtual world, it's a great time to pull out PowerPoints and to actually go through nutrition lessons for our students and really focusing on building that immune health with nutrition. Okay, so whenever we're teaching our students, these are some instruction and management techniques that can be beneficial. One of them is, and we call these our 3 E's. So our first E is emphasize. We want to make sure that we're emphasizing the fun, because remember in Catch, if it ain't fun, it don't get done. So we want to make sure that we are making this fun for everyone. The other thing is we want to emphasize the benefits of physical activity. So it's one thing for us to participate in physical activity, which is super important, but it's another to really reinforce the concept of physical activity and why we do this. Hey, that's your heart. You feel how it's beating really hard. Your heart's a muscle, and we're making it stronger when we do this activity. Stronger hearts lead to, healthy individuals. So really just tying in that those benefits of physical activity is going to be key. The next one is to emphasize safety. So I mentioned before, I'm going to say it again, make sure that you are keeping your students' safety in mind as you're watching them through teaching this way, or even if it's asynchronous. So if they're going to a website and they're getting your lessons that way, or they're following videos, make sure that you have that disclaimer in place. With Catch, we also have something called the tips, and those are tips for parents to create a healthy, safe environment for their students while they're virtually learning. So that's something that you could grab from the Catch Health at Home website and use for your parents as well. The other E is to encourage. We want to use positive reinforcement to encourage all of our students. We can do this in a virtual way by just pointing out the kids. Hey, I love that Joey is watching me. I can see her eyes. I see that she's taking notes. That's great. I love that. I know that she's engaged. All of a sudden, you'll see all the other kids looking at you, taking their notes. So that positive reinforcement, not only is that good for the student that you give it to, but it's also a tool to just get the students to do what it is that you really want to see them doing. The next one is to encourage physical activity outside of the school. So make sure that you're reminding them, hey, you can play this with your brothers and sisters. If you have a park close by, go to the park and play. But just really encouraging them to be physically active at home when you're not with them. And then again, that encouraging that creative competition. Right now is a great time for students to be focusing on their personal best. So providing them little logs where they can jot down how they're doing on different things would be great, and then they can see the growth themselves. The other E is equity, and this maybe should be the first E because this is so important. We just want to make sure that we're being equitable for all of our students. We want to make sure that we're ensuring access, that we're being inclusive, we're including everyone. We want to make sure that we're focusing on all students, not just those who have natural athletic ability, but really everyone. And we want to make sure that we're giving all students an opportunity to be our demonstrators, our equipment helpers. All of those things are key, and our kids are just dying to do those things. So we need to think about that access and equity in a distance learning scenario as well. We want to make sure that if students are not able to connect online, that we're providing hard copy packets for them. Maybe if they're able to connect online, but they're sharing their computer with brothers and sisters, then they're not able to get onto your call at the right time. So providing asynchronous and synchronous learning can be beneficial too, so that they can go and get the learning done at their own time. But whatever the need is, making sure that we identify the need and then meet it is going to be key. We also want to make sure that we're minimizing equipment and we're providing lots of options of modifying equipment. So there's lots of things that our students can do. They can make aluminum foil balls, they can make paper balls, they could take a Post-it and put it on the wall, and that's now their target, and they could work on throwing to a target. They can use balloons for volleying activities. Ziploc bags, you can blow those up. That will work for a volleying. You can put beans in there and actually make a bean bag for bean bag toss, all of those skills. So there's a lot of things that we can do if we really think about what equipment can be found at a home. And the next one is provide variety of activities. So we want to make sure that we're giving a lot of variety, a lot of choice to our students, and that is going to help them want to participate. It's going to help them be engaged. And Catch has tons of activities within our curriculum. We have about 300 to 500 activities per grade span. So we have K through 2, 3 through 5, and then 6th through 8th grade. But making sure that we're providing lots of variety and lots of fun. Also, whenever we're teaching virtually, we really want to think about which digital platforms we're using, because that is going to be key on engagement. So some of these things your district might decide what it is that you're going to use, but there's a couple of these that you can use alongside whatever it is, whatever platforms your district is using. One of them is Seesaw. Seesaw is great. I've got to see that with my own children who've been at home doing virtual learning. It is very kid-friendly. They can draw, they can send videos, pictures, all of those things. Flipgrid is also a lot of fun. It's a video app, and it speaks kid. So it's got badges, it's got rewards. The more that they engage with the app and engage with you as the teacher, the more that they're going to see on those things. So it helps with that reinforcement. Also, Google has put out a ton of great things. So we know Google Slides are great. There's Pear Deck, Google Forms for assessment. So there's lots of things that Google has available to you. There's also Kahoot. So Kahoot is where you can do quizzes and your students answer the quiz on their phone and everybody can see what answers are coming in. So that can be really fun and engaging as well. And then Canvas and Class Dojo. Class Dojo will keep points and attendance and those things. Great way to communicate with parents. And then Canvas is just a really good district-wide program to use. Our favorite is the Bitmoji Virtual Gym. So right here you see our Bitmoji Gym, and this is a completely interactive Google slide. So if you click over here, this is supposed to be me. If you click right there, it's going to take you to our mindfulness and yoga section. This is going to be our team sports. Over here we have Go Slow and Whoa. This is our Be Vape Free anti-vaping curriculum that we have with Catch. This is our activity logs. So as students go to this Bitmoji Gym, they can interact with it and they can go to all those different sites and assignments. We don't have time to go over how to set up that gym here today in this training, but if you go to YouTube and you just Google, or not Google, but you just search Bitmoji Gym or Bitmoji Classroom, you'll find tons of tutorials that will walk you through it, and it can be a lot of fun. All right, so just a couple of tips for engaging our students. As adults, we have a hard time sitting in front of a computer this long, so you can only imagine how hard it is on our students, on our children. So just a couple of things. Number one is whenever there's repetition, add a twist to it. It's pretty amazing how you can keep kids engaged as long as you just keep changing the activity a little bit. And so an example of that is that cone reaction. We went from doing this, that was our cue, to really jumping side to side, and that's going to keep that engagement. We also want to engage creativity. So students who are younger really enjoy creativity. Like, let's all act like we're superheroes today. You can even wear capes that day or themed shirts and have them act out. You could also do a yoga storytelling time. So you're telling a story and the kids are acting it out with their yoga poses. And so younger students really enjoy that. Older students care a lot more about self-expression and choice. So allowing them to choose the activity, allowing them to lead one another, all of that can be really helpful. Also, providing several short activities is key, because a long activity session, student starts doing things too long, all of a sudden you're going to see they start turning off their camera or just stepping away. And so to really keep them engaged, keep them on their toes, change things up a little bit. Play a game for a couple of seconds and then move on to a skill, maybe a dance, but really keep them guessing. The next one is to participate and be active with your students. Our students miss you. I mean, that's really important to know. My own children are at home and they're doing their virtual learning, and the PE teacher one day sent home a video for them to follow, and it was one that he made at his home with a cell phone, you could tell, and it was a piece of paper lying on the floor, and all it was is his feet jumping over that piece of paper. He bear crawled around the piece of paper, so he just did a bunch of different physical activities with that paper. You know what? My son did everything that he asked him to do. He did the entire video, and I want to say it was 10 to 15 minutes. The next day, the teacher sent us to another site. It was on YouTube, and it was a gentleman, and he was leading a physical activity session. There were kids in the background. It was very high quality, and can I tell you, my kids were not interested at all. What they're missing is that connection with their PE teacher, that reminder that you're there and that there's some normalcy and that they just can't wait to see you and be back at their school. So as much as you can, participate with your students when you're live. And if you're not live with your students, send home videos of you as much as possible. I'm not saying all the time, because I do know that you are constantly putting out content for the students. And so that's hard if it's you always trying to do your own video. And there's a lot of great resources that have been created recently, so feel free to pull from those, but just know that as much as you can, participate with the students, send videos of yourself to the students. That's going to be key. Also, the use of music is going to be really important. So music and rhythm can be a lot of fun for students, and it can keep them engaged. And then positive praise, which we've talked about earlier. So another scenario that you might find yourself in before we completely go back to in-person learning is a hybrid scenario. And so if you find yourself in this hybrid situation where some students, you're meeting your students online and then you're seeing them in school. And so we're seeing hybrid scenarios with very large school districts or very large campuses where some students are going 2 days a week and then they do 3 days virtual. And then there's some time to clean up the school before the next set of students come in. So if you find this, there's two ways that you can teach. There's the general way of teaching, which is where when the students are in the school with you in person, you teach the lesson, whatever it is. You're teaching the skill and you're providing some feedback, and then they go home and they practice it. A flipped classroom approach is really interesting and has just kind of come up during this time. And that is where you actually do the teaching through a video format. So in a video, I am going over those key concepts that they need to be aware of. I am demonstrating so that they're getting that demonstration piece. And then when they're coming to school, that's when I can give them feedback. So as they come in, we don't spend all the time of them listening to me teach, but instead they're coming in and immediately getting started with the practice piece, and I'm able to give them feedback. So just a couple of things to think about if you find yourself in a hybrid situation. And then also, if you become hybrid, it would be really fun to use different calendars and challenges for your students, theme days, just so that they still feel connected on those days when they're at home. So if there's some kind of group challenge that everybody's working on during that week, that can definitely continue to keep them engaged. All right, and that being said, we are going to get up and we're going to move and we're going to practice all these things that I've been talking about, okay? So during our activity session, we're going to do an instant activity. So we're very quickly going to get up and get moving. And then after that activity session, we are going to do a skill focus, which is going to be solo catch, where we're working on self-toss. And then we are going to close that and slow down with another mindfulness breathing activity. Notice that there are several sections that we're going to go through, and that's because we want to keep our activities short. Remember, several short activities during the playing area or the playing time. Also know that this is going to be really short because we only have an hour, so everything's going to be super condensed, but you can really make this a little bit longer if you're working with your students. All right, let's get ready. I'm going to stop my share and all right, so when I say go, you're going to stand up, you're going to check your area, make sure you have a safe place to participate in some activity. You're going to need a ball for the second part, so if you will grab a ball, small stuffed animal or something to throw, that would be great. Ready? Go. So grab your ball, have it close by, stand up, check your space, Perfect. This first activity that we're going to do is called 10-second fitness. For those of you that work with older kids, I would do 20-second fitness just so they have a little bit more physical activity happening. So the fitness activity can be anything that you choose. We could do squats back and forth, push-ups, sit-ups, anything that you want. But for today, we are going to jump. So we're going to work on some plyometrics. So on the first one for 10 seconds, the teacher is going to jump side to side. So I'm jumping side to side over an imaginary line. While I'm jumping, you as my partner, you are going to count for me. So for 10 seconds, and then we'll count my jumps and see how I do, okay? And then after those 10 seconds, I'm going to let you jump, okay? Ready? Gonna get some music going. All right, count my jumps. You ready? How'd I do? I think I had like 11. It's hard to keep time and do the jumps. I end up just jumping each second. So, yeah, every second. All right, I think I have 11. I wonder if you can beat my time. Are you ready? We're gonna do 10 seconds and your goal is to beat your teacher. All right, ready and go. 1, 1,000, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and stop. How'd you do? All right, so what I do at this time when I'm working with my students is I have them put it in the chat. So in the chat, you're gonna start seeing all these numbers come up, 10, 14. All of a sudden, the students are gonna start engaging with those numbers. Oh, if she got 14, I can do 14. All right, on this next version now, I'm gonna jump forward and backwards, okay? All right, ready? Count my jumps and go. Stop. All right, how'd I do? Okay, it's your turn. Get ready. You're jumping forward and backwards, and you're going to try to beat my time. All right, and go. 8, 9, 10, and stop. How'd you do? Make sure to put it in the chat, again, so all the students can see those numbers pop up in the chat. Okay, so now we're going to do one together. So everybody's going to jump. You can choose to go side to side, or you can jump front to back, okay? We're gonna jump for 10 seconds, and this time you are beating your personal best score. So it's not a students versus teacher anymore, your personal best. All right, 10 seconds on the clock. Ready, and go. And stop. Good job, guys. If you beat your personal best, give me some thumbs up. And if not, thumbs down. Let me see. Good job. And most of the time you're going to find that your students always beat their last score. So great job, everyone. Okay, we also have a log for that. So if you want your students to keep up with that fitness challenge, they could do that. They could write it down and see how they do every week. Okay, so now we're going to move on to solo catch. So grab that ball or stuffed animal. And again, this could be any skill development that you want to work on, but today we're going to work on catching. And so now just start tossing and catching the ball with your right hand. All right, and I'm gonna watch my students. I'm gonna go over those key things. Make sure you're tracking the ball with your eye. I love how your palm is up. Let's switch to left hand. Left hand, back and forth. Woo! Aluminum balls are harder to catch. All right, so after we do our right hand, our left hand, now we're gonna add that twist to keep our students engaged. So now you're gonna throw the ball up and you're gonna clap as many times as possible before you catch the ball. All right, ready, and go. Throw it up and clap. Throw it up. Good job, guys. So one thing you'll notice is that to get as many claps as possible, your students will start going down to a knee and they can really get some claps in there. Okay, so we've worked on just the skill. We added a twist. We could also have them throw, turn in a circle and catch. And we can even allow them to throw and catch any way they want to. So I always have that part of the lesson in place. So now just throw and catch any way you want. You'll see people do it around their back. You'll see some rainbows. And then while they're doing all of those different catches, I spotlight each child. And so whenever you do a spotlight, that means everyone can see that student and the catch that they're doing. Okay, so now we're gonna do an assessment piece, okay? So you're gonna take that ball, put it in your right hand, and you're gonna toss it and catch it. You're gonna do that 10 times total, only 10, no more than 10. And then you're gonna let me know how you do in the chat. All right, ready, and go. So you're throwing and catching. Perfect. And after a certain amount of time, everybody's done, and I let them know, okay, put it in the chat. So you go to your chat box over here and you put, they did 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. And then as the educator, you can save that chat and you truly have a record of how they did during that lesson. All right, great job, guys. Also remember that when you're doing this virtual teaching, to remember your cues. If you need them quiet, hey guys, get quiet in 3, eyes on me in 2, we're quiet in 1. Hold that ball, look at me. Good job, guys. All right, we're switching to the left. So all of those things that I went over about teaching can happen here in a virtual setting as well. All right, go ahead and have a seat, and we're gonna do one more mindfulness breathing. Let me close out my chat. Okay, so this one is called 5 senses. All right, you are going to breathe in through your nose like you're smelling a flower, and breathe out through your mouth like you're blowing out a candle, okay? And again, I'm trusting you're doing this with me. All right, breathe in through that nose for 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 3. 2 more times. Breathing in, breathing out. Last one. Breathing in and out. Good. And now have all the students shut their eyes and listen to any sounds that you hear in the room. Maybe it's the air conditioner or the fan. Maybe it's your family, birds outside. Then ask them to open their eyes, focus on something in the room that brings them joy. Take a deep breath in while looking at that item. Then exhale. Perfect. All right, so again, a couple of things that we practiced here. We made sure that we had several short activities. Also think about how simple the activities were. Really keep it simple. As long as the kids are up and they're moving, they're having fun, and it does not have to be too difficult. Remember that challenge I told you about? We were jumping over an invisible line. Well, if we wanted it to be a bigger challenge, they could stack books, and they're working on really jumping over the books. It could be a throwing to a target, and there's so many skills that you could work on using that same game or same activity. Okay, let's dive right back into our PowerPoint. Okay, so one thing I want to point out as well is that your physical activity session in person can look very similar to this. You have your instant activity in place, your lesson focus, and then your mindfulness or cool down activity. And so always keeping that structure is going to be key, because when we keep the structure, again, that's that trauma-informed teaching, so that students feel really comfortable in the environment with us. Okay, so we have a resource called Catch Health at Home, which is completely free for educators as well as parents. And so I want to briefly go over what is there for you and how you can find this resource. So first of all, to find it, you're going to go to the website that's down below in the blue bar, but you could also just Google Catch Health at Home and this website will pop up. So this is a resource that we pulled together like so many other organizations once COVID-19 hit. And we really did that with the focus of making sure that there are activities that can be done at home or nutrition lessons that can be used in the home. And so there's 2 platforms available. There's the Educator Platform, which can be found on catch.org, and then there's a parent platform that's found on Google Classroom. And the reason why we put the parent platform on Google Classroom is just for ease. We didn't want them to have to worry about creating a Catch account. So on the parent platform, there are tips for teaching. Our parents have been asked to all of a sudden be teachers. And so it really goes over some just simple things that they can do to make education easier in their homes. There's also our Catch My Breath Vaping Prevention Program, and that is for students that are in 5th grade all the way through high school. And it really goes into some different prevention techniques. There's also some social learning opportunities for your students to do, so some really great programs there. There's also games and activity breaks, and we pulled these from the larger Catch curriculum, and they're all games that are for either small groups or 1 to 2 people, so that this can happen in a home, in a learning pod, so that your students can participate. There's also a growing mindfulness and self-care section. Those breathing techniques that you saw that we did together, some yoga. There's also gratitude list, setting a daily attention, all of these great resources for mindfulness. Also, you'll find snack recipes there and nutrition information. And it's important to note that those are for parents. So they're super easy for parents to just dive in there and understand all of the tips that are there for them. So then that goes into our parent platform in Spanish. So we found that there was a need to create a complete Spanish classroom. And so that's what we have available. All the directions, all the instructions, everything is done in Spanish. It is not an exact replica, but all those key things that we noticed were getting a lot of traction, they're also available in the Spanish platform. So our activity log, our tips, those physical activity videos, all of those can be found here. The videos are still in English, but you can use YouTube to give you Spanish subtitles that can help as well. And then those nutrition tips are all translated too. Then we have our Educator Platform. So the Educator Platform has a distance learning resource for you that will just help you with some best practices. There's also something called our MVP announcements. Remember earlier I said MVP stands for Move and Stay Active, Value Healthy Eating, and Practice Healthy Habits. And so we have created these social media prompts that are typed out and ready to go on Catch Health at Home. And so you can go and cut and paste those and put them in your own social media, newsletters, any way that you're communicating with your community, you can use those MVP announcements and get that message out. We also have calendars, challenges, and more here. So themes, lots of fun things that your families can do. There's also student independent learning assignments. So if you want your students to do maybe a pantry scavenger hunt, those kind of things that they can do on their own, some bingo activities, all of those things can be found on that Educator Platform. There's also health lessons that have PowerPoints available, games and activity breaks with videos. There's that mindfulness and stress management that I was telling you about, and then our Catch My Breath curriculum as well. So since we're talking about all of these activities, let's go ahead and do one. So I'm going to stop my screen share. And we're going to go back to this area so we can play Dicercise, which is one of our games. Now, Dicercise, again, we took from our PE curriculum. And so it used to be played where there were stations and everyone had their own card that would tell them what activity they're going to do. And then they each had a dice and they would roll the dice and do that activity. Also, there's blank cards so that the students could fill them out. Well, we have changed it up a little bit, and so now we're going to do it in a virtual way. I would put the big sign back up so you can see all the exercises, but I have it memorized, so we'll just go by the cue, okay? All right, so now we have 5 jumping jacks. So we're going to jump 5 times. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Great job, guys. All right, and the next one is 1, which is arm circles. So giving some arm circles, 3, 4, and 5. Good, I'm rolling again. I have 2, and 2 is your choice. So you're gonna move your way for 10 seconds. Ready, and go. And we're gonna do our job. Good, and stop. Again, just think about the simplicity of this. This is something that's so easy to do, and then you could encourage your students to do this with their families. Maybe they make their own dice. So lots of other things that you can expand on to keep this lesson going. All right, back to screen share. Okay. So I'm going to wait until the end, and we're going to do a quick tour of Health at Home so you can see what is available to you and how to get there. Another resource that we have available, but this one is paid, or we have some video lessons. So these are recorded lessons where a Catch trainer with this animated PowerPoint and slide actually teaches some of those nutrition lessons. So if you're in need of just something that is plug and play, just know that we have those available. And so if you Google Catch video lessons, you'll be able to find those and the pricing and all that good stuff. So I won't talk about this too much because, again, I know that California is virtual, but I do want to let you know that we have also been doing a lot of research around in-person PE and what it can look like safely and how to engage our students. And so there's an entire training that is built around that in-person piece. So as you're getting ready to go back to school, if you would like to visit us at Catch, you can through some of our other trainings that we have. I also want to point out how important it is that we become wellness leaders on our campus. So as the PE teacher, yes, it's super important that you are engaged with your students and you're getting them physically fit and active, but it's also important that you're advocating for your role in the school, and then also just keeping health a big part of what your school is doing, even in a virtual setting. So a couple of things you can do. You can lead and coordinate efforts to create and support a healthy environment at school and home. Communicate and empower others to join in the effort. So creating a team to help you do this. Model and teach concepts and skills to promote and maintain health and physical activity. So a couple of things you could do. You could send out those MVP announcements to your community. The more that we see health and wellness out in social media, the more normalized it becomes. And so once it's normalized, then your community just thinks it's no big deal to eat healthy and practice healthy habits. This is one of our teachers in Chicago, and she took our MVP messages and actually recorded them and sent those recordings out to her families, and we heard that she had great responses back. She also used our calendars and challenges and challenged her community to participate in those things, and it was really successful as well. So during this time, really make sure that health and PE content is part of that distance learning curriculum. Advocate, 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 because it is so important now more than ever. Also using those health promotion messaging, and that's any way that you communicate with your parents. So if it's newsletters, your website, all of those things. You also want to empower and enable your classroom teachers to integrate physical activity in the classroom. Your classroom teachers are going to get more face time with the students than anyone else this year. And so it's really important that they understand that they can use activity breaks, brain breaks, get the kids up and moving. And what it's going to do is it's going to give them more oxygen to the brain. It's going to help them to be better learners, okay? All right, and before we go any further, I'm going to go ahead and take us to Health at Home so you can see how to access all of these resources that I just told you about. All right. Okay, so here we are. We're looking at Health at Home online, and this is the resource that I was just letting you know about. So you would go to catch.org Health at Home, and you'll see this landing page right here. You're going to go to Educator, and you're going to send your parents to the parent. And that's one thing that I haven't mentioned before that's really important. These two platforms are not meant to replace one another. We would love to have your parents engaging with the parent platform, and you're engaging with the Educator platform and sending those lessons and everything to the parents, but they both work really, really well together and complement each other very well. Also, if you ever do after school care or after school staff, you can also go here, and then there's a little bit more resources that are available, and they are set more for an out of school setting. Once you get to this landing page, go right here to sign up, and then you'll create your free account. And when you do, it's going to look like this. So this is what your account will look like. You'll have your dashboard, and this Health at Home is that free bundle that I was telling you about that has all the resources that you will need during this time. And so once you click the Let's Go button, it'll pull up right here. You've got a little welcome video, and then lots of information on how to use Catch at Home. And then right here, you can see those MVP announcements I was telling you about, the calendars, all of those things that we were going over. And so they're all there and available to you. And whenever you click on the activities, you're going to see all of these little video cameras, and that just means there is a video for that activity. Also, if it says English and Spanish, then you know that you have the directions for it in both English and Spanish. All right. There's also, Catch has a very large curriculum. So if this is something that you like and you want to engage with it even more, then there are ways that you can expand and get our nutrition curriculum as well as our PE curriculum. And then we even have something called the coordination kit. So if you're really passionate about that whole child approach and getting a team together on your school that's moving forward in that effort, then we can help you there as well. All right, so as we are approaching the end of this session, I just want to highlight teacher care. Often educators give so much of themselves to others that we don't leave much for us. And this is going to be the year that you really need to take care of yourself. So just like if we were on an airline, I just want to remind you to put your oxygen mask on first, take care of yourself, and then you can help others. So a couple of things that I do to kind of that self-care. Remember your why. So if it was a teacher that really made an impact to you, you know, having a note from them that's front and center that you see all the time, or maybe their picture if it's a student, but just have that idea of why am I doing this? Because there are going to be some hard days, but when we touch back to why we're doing this, it can help you get you through. Also, take mindful moments throughout the day. So just those breathing techniques, take a moment to just relax and be present. Know your creature comfort. So if you really like to have chapstick close by, or maybe there's a hand lotion that smells so good that will just help you get through the day, or maybe it's your coffee, whatever it is, make sure you have those comforts close to you. And then also, it's not on here, but have an affirmation folder. An affirmation folder is a safe place for you to put all the notes from your students and your administrators, and it just reminds you of how important you are and how important the work you do is. And then also practice what you preach. Make sure that you're eating healthy, drinking lots of water, and getting lots of sleep. That's one thing that I don't do enough of, but make sure that you're sleeping and that you're taking care of yourself. All right, and that being said, if you want to go a little bit further with CATCH trainings, we have trainings for physical education, again, that does a deep dive into in-person learning. So we do a little bit more with this virtual and then also in-person learning. We also have something called Meaningful Movement in the Classroom, and that is our training that really empowers teachers to to include more physical activity in their class. And then there's also a whole child leadership training. So if you're interested in leading this effort on your campus, then join us in that whole child leadership training, and we would love to see you there. And I think that brings it to the end. So I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you for what you do. What you do is really important. I think the PE teacher is kind of the rock star on the campus. And for those of you that don't have PE teachers, it's the classroom teacher that's doing that physical activity. Thank you for what you do too, and for putting in that effort. I know firsthand just how busy you are with all of the academics you have to get in. So really pouring into physical activity and making that a priority is key. And so thank you for doing it as well. Your students are very, very fortunate to have you. I hope some of you will see me at the question and answer session that we have after this training. And then also just connect with me at any other time. So my email is shana@catch.org. Let me know how your year is going. If you have any questions, you want to bounce any ideas, I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much and have a wonderful evening.